Do not worry about the people living in trash heaps. Do not worry about the nonstop crime, the smash and grabs, the break-ins, the follow home robberies, all sorts of scams. Don't worry about any of that. Do not worry about the taxes. Don't even worry about Rona anymore. That was very 2021, because what is really important is gender neutral toys. What is up? My name is Eric. This channel is called Report and Opine. I am back. This, of course, is the epicenter for all of your current and captivating coastal elite chaos. So please hit that subscribe button, like the video, ring the notification bell, leave a comment or two, share this with a friend. Let's go. From NBC Los Angeles, here are 24 new California laws to know in 2024. And of course, they have this cute little video with this upbeat music to let you know that they are in fact helping. But obviously, there are loads of laws that are not in the video that I do want to talk about. And I'm sure there are loads of other laws that I don't even know exist. But anyways.
The start of 2024 means some new laws in California that could affect your everyday life. Let me explain. Some of the new laws will impact your commute, your job, and the way you shop for your kids.
And the way you shop for your kids. Interesting. Sounds like they're really going to help us out here.
A speed camera pilot program was given the green light. LA, Long Beach, and Glendale are among a handful of California cities that will be allowed to place up to 33 cameras in school zones in areas that are prone to a lot of accidents.
Okay, I guess that doesn't really sound that bad, but it is pretty dystopian, and she's going to even mention here that you can get a ticket without ever talking to a cop, I believe.
This means you could see a ticket in your mailbox for speeding without ever being pulled over. Fines can range.
Yeah, sounds a little dark, right? Like, it's all very good on the surface, but eventually it's going to be a complete police state, which I guess is what certain entities would want.
Range from $50 to $500. Another new law expands sick leave. Employees of most companies must now receive at least 3 days of paid sick leave by the 120th calendar day of their employment. They also have to receive at least 5 days of sick leave by their 200th day on the job. Big box stores that sell toys will also now be required to maintain a gender-neutral toy section. The bill's author said the goal is to eliminate stereotypes about what kind of toys each gender should play with.
Okay, so that's pretty creepy. She says the author, which I would have to assume is Scott Wiener. I could be wrong, but they're talking about stereotypes, bro. It's you that have created the stereotypes, not that. I mean, what do you?
Though California is the first state to pass a law like this, some retailers have already been doing it. Some consumer groups say this law will also help shoppers better compare deals. They say similar toys marketed to boys and girls are sometimes priced differently.
No, it's not going to do any of that. All it's meant to do is push their weirdo LGBTQ, BBQ, CIA plus, or whatever agenda a little bit further. That's all it's meant to do, very obviously.
Shout out my homosexual niggas out there. Yeah. Shout out my niggas like dick in the ass, nigga.
I know that shit hurt.
Shout out the whole Labicotia, nigga. I know some of you niggas don't be supporting the Labicotia, but nigga like me, Labicotia supporter.
There's also some new rules when it comes to marijuana. California law will now prevent most companies from firing workers for consuming weed when they're off the clock. If you show up high to work, though, you can still be fired. It also doesn't apply to some jobs like construction or federal employees, so you may want to check with your employer.
Okay, well, I really have no problem with weed, whatever, but it's very clear, it's crystal clear, it is abundantly clear that they want people to be as high as humanly possible so they don't see what's going on behind the curtain, right? If you're not going to be a fent zombie, you might as well smoke weed all day and not worry about what we're doing. But I do want to take a look at some of the other laws on this list. 2024 California employment laws, state minimum wage increase, and this is already getting some people fired. I think it was a Pizza Hut or some pizza restaurant that already laid off a bunch of workers, so you're going to end up with that, and the robots are coming in, we already know. Minimum wage increase for healthcare workers, so they are now, obviously we're in this post-Rona world where we are constantly propping up the healthcare workers as the savior to everybody. And I have nothing against healthcare workers, but why are we pretending that they're just on this completely different level? They were heroes. We were outside clapping every single night for months in a row. It's all absolute nonsense. And not to mention that largely the medical establishment is completely corrupt. Work from home, introduced by State Senator Angelique Ashby, SB 731, requires an employer to provide a 30-day advance written notice before requiring remote employees to return to an in-person setting. So here we are again. The entitlement is through the roof. You were lucky enough to keep your job. You got a work from home gig, and now you're demanding that the employer let you know if they want you to come back to the office, and then they're going to protest that. I saw that in New York City, right out front of the New York Times building.
To forced RTO, we say no. To forced RTO, we say no. To forced RTO.
And I genuinely asked them, I was like, what are you guys protesting? And they were like, oh, an RTO. I was like, I didn't even know what an RTO was. It was a return to office. And they were outside the New York Times protesting because somebody wanted them to go back to the office. And they eat their own constantly. The New York Times is one of the worst, but they weren't good enough for the weirdo woke mob to not protest in front of their building because the higher ups at the company want, it's just all, yeah. Penalizing cannabis, introduced by Senator Stephen Bradford, SB 700 would make it unlawful for an employer to discriminate against any person in hiring, termination, or any term or condition of employment. So she did mention this in the video, but they can't fire anyone for smoking weed off the job. So I'm pretty certain it's going to end up in a lot of people saying that they only got fired because they found a joint in their car or something like that. It's very similar to the racism card that's constantly played. I don't know if they can actually prove this, but more importantly, like I said, they want as many people to be as high as humanly possible, so they don't see how they are destroying the state of California. Credit history, introduced by State Senator Susan Eggman, SB 267, prohibits the use of a person's credit history as part of the application process for a rental housing accommodation. So I guess this is meant to get all of the bums off the street into housing. We know that's a pipe dream far, far away. It's never going to happen. But you're telling me now that you don't even have to have good credit to rent an apartment? Tell that to New York. And I also think this is part of the plan to make sure that illegals with no credit history and a fake ID are able to rent apartments too. Bike signals. A new section of AB 1909 will require bicyclists to obey bicycle signals whenever an official traffic control signal is exhibiting different colored bicycle symbols is shown concurrently with official traffic controls or pedestrian control signals exhibiting different colored lights or arrows. I don't even really know what that means, I guess. I thought this was maybe one of the good ones because you do see these bikers whizzing around through traffic. I mean, people in Oakland don't obey the traffic laws in cars, but that's a different story. But I thought maybe this is one of their best attempts at actually helping is by making sure that bicyclists actually stop at the lights, but I don't know. And here's a really good one, LGBTQ youth support, whatever that means, under SB 407, and they don't mention who is behind this bill. My guess is Scott Wiener, but again, I could be wrong. The California Department of Social Services will be directed to ensure LGBTQ youth are placed with supportive and gender-affirming foster parents, right? So that is really as dark as it gets. If you do not affirm a child's delusion that has been pushed on them by a weirdo teacher or TikTok or whatever it is, they will take that child and place them with a gender-affirming foster parent. It's through the roof. They say, the law requires a family demonstrate the ability and willingness to meet a child's needs, regardless of orientation, gender identity, or expression. So basically, and I don't want to be too hyperbolic here, but basically it sounds to me like what they're saying is if you do not bow to this ideology, then they're going to take your kids away. Fentanyl distribution penalty, AB 701, increases potential prison sentences for criminals convicted of dealing high amounts of fentanyl. So it's potential. We may or may not even do it. It really kind of just depends on how much fentanyl you are actually moving. Child trafficking, SB 14, classifies child trafficking as a serious felony. It includes harsher penalties on people convicted of such crimes. So here they are again, creating new laws because they failed to enforce the old laws. And it kind of sounds like the old 1994 Biden crime bill where they just start adding on penalties. Meanwhile, they're literally trafficking people and product through a completely wide open border. And you have Senator Scott Wiener, who's hosting drag shows for kids. Another good one here, Ebony Alerts. SB 673 creates a new emergency alert called an Ebony Alert, used to help locate missing black women and youth. So I don't know. I genuinely cannot understand why that would be any different from a regular Amber Alert, but here we are. And she did talk about this one in the video very briefly about how it's going to change your shopping habits or whatever. This has been national news for some months now. But of course, the gender-neutral toy section under AB 1084, department stores with at least 500 employees in California are required to have a gender-neutral section of children's toys. So again, they pick an arbitrary number. Remember the Rona nonsense? Oh, businesses with 100 or more employees, whatever. It doesn't make any sense. It's very obviously not about changing your shopping habits or whatever she says, or eliminating gender stereotypes or any of that. It is about force-feeding a narrative that they want you to believe in because, as we know, if they can convince you that a man can magically become a woman, then of course everything else is easy. And if you think for one split second that they are not going to take every single avenue to indoctrinate children into this weirdo LGBTQ agenda, you'd be sadly mistaken, in my humble opinion.
I know some of you niggas don't be supporting the Labicotia, but nigga like me, Labicotia supporter.
So there you have it, a handful of the new laws in California, and they are definitely trying their hardest to help everybody because Oakland, California certainly looks beautiful. Do not worry about the people living in trash heaps. Do not worry about the nonstop crime, the smash and grabs, the break-ins, the follow-home robberies, all sorts of scams. Don't worry about any of that. Do not worry about the taxes. Don't even worry about Rona anymore. That was very 2021 because what is really important is gender-neutral toys.